So I've noticed sometimes the most important moments of my life, the most important connections, or those like small life changing times is like there's all these obstacles for me to get there. For example, I had like the most mind opening conversation and experience with a friend uh, who like provided Reiki on me. It's like energy healing, and we worked through a lot of things. And in order to get to her, there was a snowstorm, and there wasn't a single other car on the road, and the roads were just deserted. And everything that day was stopping me, was trying to stop me. I was late getting out of work. There's a snowstorm. My car's engine light was on. Like everything was trying to stop me from getting to that. And I just felt this like pull, the strongest magnetic pull I can explain, that's telling me you have to go for that.
My name is Dylan Birch. Over the past 4 years, I've been traveling Canada via train, plane, and even hitchhike, working anywhere from McDonald's to lighting films. What I found sparks my curiosity is how much we can learn from a meaningful conversation. When we engage with curiosity, it helps us better connect with ourselves and with others. Deeper connection raises levels of dopamine, oxytocin, endorphins, and other well-being biochemicals in our brain. We can create positive benefits for our body and our mind. This makes conversation part of the cure. This is the Curiosity Curve.
Okay, so here we are. We are inside, as you can see. Today we have Alaysha here. I personally know Alaysha through work. We worked together at a hotel serving, and we had a pretty cool experience there. But I want to bring her on today because, as you can see, we are both pretty energetic and often smiley people, bubbly, as people might like to say, and we find we are pretty alike when it comes to energy we have, the struggles we have, the passions we have. So I figured, and I mean, she's also on the same sense my biggest fan, and she has watched all the 2 episodes that are aired as of the current date. So, Alaysha, go ahead and explain, maybe in a sentence, what you do, and then we're going to get beyond what you do and go into who you are. So, sentence on what you do, and then who is Alaysha? What goes beyond your career or what you do, and into who you are.
I'll definitely get into all the sides, but yes, Dylan, I am one of your biggest fans. I was just saying earlier that how excited I am to see all your other like podcast episodes. I always set aside like a full hour and I listen to the whole thing and I kind of get into my zone and I get a lot out of your conversations. So I was so excited to be your guest. I feel like a superstar. So, the curiosity curve is going to blow up one day. It's going to be a big thing and be
Oh
one
my
of the first 10.
goodness.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe back to that sentence we were talking about. I didn't
Um,
pay Alaysha to say any of these things, just
Oh
so you guys
no,
know.
he's not lying. I'm a huge fan. Me and Dylan are very much the same. I think that's what, like, of course we were working together and we had a great like camaraderie between all our coworkers and we actually all got really tight knit. But me and Dylan and I, we are very much the same. We were always challenging one another with like little jokes and jabs back and forth, like siblings almost. It was awesome. And we both kind of stand up for what we believe in. So like if something was going wrong at work, we were not afraid to kind of talk about it or get everyone's opinion and things like that. But that was good times. I do miss working with you, Dylan. Right now, what I do for work is it's interesting. I work in a call center, so nobody can see me. It's just my voice, just over the phone. I'm dealing with customer service inquiries all day long for a coffee company. So my official job title right now is coffee specialist. Very
Would you
interesting.
say you're an actual coffee specialist, Alaysha?
I am a coffee connoisseur, Dylan.
Uh, okay.
Any
So we're
coffee?
not.
Any questions? Come on over.
Oh my goodness! I hope they put at least a textbook or something beside you, so you can give them some legitimate information.
You're like, what's the difference between these two different coffees? I'll be like, oh, well, the notes and aromas, the
Yeah,
chocolate.
Elisha's like, well, one's whole bean and one's ground, and
I wasn't much of a coffee drinker before, but now, like, it's bad. I can only handle 1 cup a day because I have too much energy as it is. So, but I'll end up drinking like 4 decaf coffees because I
just for the fun of it.
just for fun.
Some things never change. Okay, so with that, Alaysha, I'm gonna take actually, I think, a fun place to start. I didn't even think we'd end up going there, especially once I started introing how we know each other. But when you talked about standing up for what we believe in the workplace, I think it's kind of uncomfortable for me to talk about. We're not going to mention any names or even the workplace we work for, but I think it is valuable to talk about some of these things in the workplace. I know there's bigger issues at hand right now in the current state that we're in, that we're recording this. But at the same time, I think some of the things we went through at the workplace we were at, and I mean, I've been and seen it happen at plenty of places in the restaurant industry where, our managers or our bosses have a certain way of seeing things, or they see what they see. And we kind of had a pretty awesome bond between all our coworkers. We had a pretty cool mix of young, old. I say old with a grain of salt, but middle age. But at the same time, everyone, we had such a cool bond, and there was definitely
group. We had the daddies.
yeah, exactly.
Age group and
yeah. So the atmosphere was awesome, but there was definitely friction, and we all felt that, I think. And there was a certain point where the friction kind of overloaded the fun. And I want to kind of talk about that, because at that moment, and when I decided to speak up, maybe a little bit in the wrong way, I feel like I definitely voiced my opinion and did it with the right people present, but I ended up getting fired when I went home to visit my family. So not a big deal now. I enjoy where I am, and the opportunities I've had since have been blessed, and maybe it was just meant to be in the end. But thinking about that time, man, and just how it was so wrong, or like just the way it went about it. They let me go home for vacation, and all of a sudden, like second day in, I get a call and I'm not employed there anymore, and it was a third party company kind of we run through, but more so looking at the problem at hand of like the butting heads of employees and managers. And maybe first I'll kind of stop talking, maybe get your opinion on that, but maybe we can explore a little further into why we see some of those things happening.
I definitely have a very powerful thought coming straight to mind, regardless of the details of who, what, when, where, why. The greatest thing I can think of is injustice. So when something is so morally wrong that it's unjust to the people. So if they're doing something that's so wrong or so unfair, and I feel like in the workplace, there's these micro injustices that happen throughout the manager employee relationships where they know it's wrong and you know it's wrong, but most people don't stand up to it because they're scared, or like they could lose their job and things like that, so they just take it. But you did the thing what most people were too scared to do, which was to confront it. And I'm not saying you confronted it the right way or whatever happened. I know it's just a conversation, maybe it got heated, but
Flaring emotions is how I would
emotions.
not at all points. And I definitely admitted when I realized and was called out for it in
Emotions
conversation.
aren't always a bad thing though. Like, yeah, they can fuel the fire and get heated, but they're driving you towards something. So for me, that something is sometimes injustice. Like right now, what's going on in the world, it's such an injustice that there's like a flame of fuel inside of all of us right now, that we're so hot, it's burning with like anger, sadness, whatever it is. It could be on a
Guilt
small
for
what?
some of us, for guilt, like people like
Guilt.
us.
Yeah.
Not people that we're all human beings, but I mean, if anyone's watching this right now, we both have white skin. Not that that is any level of anything. It's just that we have definitely, as people, let things be swept under the rug without looking too deep or actually speaking up about them. Is what Alaysha is kind of referring to right now, in case a few
Also,
weeks from now there's other things moved on. And not that this won't be prevalent, but I mean, goddamn, the world's pretty crazy right now with the little domino streak we're on.
I forgot what I was gonna say.
You're talking about the micro injustices within the workplace.
Yeah, and like also referring to what's going on in the world right now. Yeah, I guess kind of not speaking up to me and maybe to you as well isn't also an injustice to yourself. So if you have something that you feel so strongly inside, you need to let it out. And that's actually one of the huge topics I wanted to cover with you today, is that sometimes when even I don't know where to find my own voice, or maybe other people don't know where to find their own voice, and there's something inside, like imagine like a little stick figure in your throat, and it's screaming and banging on the walls trying to get out, and you don't know how to get it out, you don't know how to use it. But right now I see everyone, so many young people, white, black, whatever, we're all speaking out towards the things that we feel are unjust and unfair and not right. And you know, that's a good step, I would say. Because if you're silent about something that's completely wrong, you're kind of cooperating and operating under that wrongness. So you should be speaking up about your beliefs. And so back to the story of you getting fired at work.
Yeah,
You know,
time out. Actually, we'll get away from there because I like where you're going.
I was
Not that
say,
we can't go back there. Yeah, I like it, and I think maybe that's where it was meant to go, was maybe to get beyond the workplace and kind of talk about it as a whole, and beyond maybe the movement that's current, and and how this is kind of, you're looking at it in a way that's beyond whatever issue may be at hand, whatever business or injustice it may be, or on whatever level. It's the way at which you're talking about going at it, right? And I think the big thing with people and with human beings as a whole is we get uncomfortable talking about these things, especially when I mentioned guilt. When we know we're guilty of something, and that doesn't have to be a crime, but in a time where we're talking about the injustice being the Black Lives Matter movement and the George Floyd situation. Thank goodness, the officers and everything have been charged, but at the same time, to look at it as a whole, it's what are we doing to kind of get beyond the discomfort of that feeling of whatever emotion it is, and kind of have that conversation regardless.
and I want to interject, like talking about discomfort. I'm not sure where I heard this, but it was like the only way to grow, like if you're in a shell, is for that shell to get so tight and so uncomfortable for it to crack, and then you can grow from there. So the fact that we're uncomfortable right now, or whatever is going on, if it's making you uncomfortable, that's a really strong sign to show you that there's growth happening.
Yeah. Or it's not growth happening. That's where the direction of the growth will happen, is towards that. Absolutely. And it's just like, I don't know, we should be feeling these things, and we should be taking the time to sit down and maybe educate ourselves a little bit about the history that we didn't get taught in our own education system, and I'm just as guilty for not knowing any of those things, and still presently have not taken the time that I believe is the correct depth of looking into things. There have been things like the peaceful protests here in Vancouver, where I'm located, that I've participated in. But yeah, dude, it comes down to like our morals. Like, no one's gonna look at you and be able to tell you what the right thing, or what the right conversation or action to take on any of these things is. It's inside, and the only person that's going to feel that pain and feel that guilt and feel that shame and anything is you, unless you reflect it out and push that on someone else through the way you're talking and expressing those emotions and out on other people, then it only really affects you. So you're only harming yourself if you don't do it.
Like, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about not able to get your voice out, if you hold on to that shame, guilt, those kinds of things, like, you'll start feeling it physically. It'll show up in ways you won't realize, like you're getting headaches all the time, or you're getting stomach aches all the time. Why? It's because you're holding on to something that's so bad for you that your body's like trying to give you signs to say, pay attention, pay attention, you know?
Dummy. You forgot that one, but it's exactly what it is, dude. Everything is, oh, yeah, I said dummy. You forgot that part. Is that it's saying, yo, listen, dummy, this is what's going on, and sending us signals. Because like that's when it gets to that point, like that's what our mind and our body are working together to tell us. Like, hey, it's beyond the point. It's like, now it's a problem. We're going to shoot that jolt of pain. We're going to give you that headache. It's like, hey, whatever it may be, like stressing that can lead to your headaches, whatever your diet, put in whatever the variable you want it to be. But
like maybe that job that we worked together, maybe it ended for you abruptly and unfairly, but you said you were super thankful for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, like right now I'm working a job that I know is not really helping me to grow. I'm sure I'm learning some things along the way, but like I'm stuck inside a windowless building for 9.5 hours a day in an uncomfortable office chair, and I'm starting to get back pains like really bad every day now. I'm like, I already know that this isn't made for me. It's hurting me physically, but there's like, you still make yourself kind of suffer through it because you're so unsure of what the next steps are to take.
And I think you just have to do something, and it is like, is that what you're saying? That anything's better than nothing at that point. It's kind of what it's still movement, dude. No matter what you're saying, like, and if that's what you're not getting to, that's what I want to express to you, man. Is that might not seem like you're moving in the right direction, or that you're just making aimless movement, but like you're not standing still. Keep that in mind, and like there's plenty of things, dude, and we talk about this between me and you like all the time when we talk. So we forget about these things. We forget about these conversations that we have, or this impact that we may have that we don't realize, or just within people that might send us a text every now and then and say they're thinking of you. Like, we all know we make impact. It's just when we balance out our other thoughts, like the negative thoughts, dude, or the doubts and the fears so let me turn this into a question rather than I think we could bounce back and forth here like for hours, but let's kind of I want to take like examples from our own lives. So like we're explaining all these things, but like take a time where you feel like you've been overwhelmed by those things, and like maybe even in your circumstance of work where what is your step then? If it's not to get out of this job and you feel you need this job to get to the next step, how do you balance it out so that you're able to do what you need to do now to be in this job to get to the next step, but also make sure that you're not going through the back pains, so that you can, you know what I mean? You can level out the, what do you call them? The weight scales.
The balance teeter.
Yeah. Yeah. What teeters? You laugh at me like you don't know what it is. The teeter-totter thing.
This is why
yeah. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Answer the question.
Okay. No, this brings me to a very strong point that I wanted to discuss also. So it's about like this feeling you get. So maybe I don't feel like I'm on the right path most of the time. And sometimes I feel like I'm making zero impact at all. And that scares me. Like I'm like feeling like I'm wasting my energy on something. So the feeling of like that, for example, the job you don't like, it's like weighing you down, it's dragging you down. You're not excited to go to work the next day. You're dreading it. The feeling of dread, like that's the best word I can think of. But in order to take those next steps, so I've noticed sometimes the most important moments of my life, the most important connections, or those like small life-changing times is like there's all these obstacles for me to get there. For example, I had like the most mind-opening conversation and experience with a friend uh, who like provided Reiki on me. It's like energy healing, and we worked through a lot of things. And in order to get to her, there was a snowstorm, and there wasn't a single other car on the road, and the roads were just deserted. And everything that day was stopping me, was trying to stop me. I was late getting out of work. There's a snowstorm. My car's engine light was on. Like everything was trying to stop me from getting to that. And I just felt this like pull, the strongest magnetic pull I can explain, that's telling me you have to go for that. And that feeling is the driving force for me in everything. So right now, if I'm being pulled down, it's dragging, I'm feeling sad or low by something that's energy sucking or not making me happy, I have to try to flip it and find those small moments in life where it's like, hell yeah. Like there's no other emotion other than, yes, this is it. And it's such a strong feeling that you can't ignore it. And you have to pay attention to your body when you feel those jolts of electricity. It could be the smallest thing, like you're outside and the sunset, but like in that moment, you get a jolt of electricity saying like, I'm meant to be here. And that's kind of one of the major forces that I'm dealing with right now, is that teeter-totter. I'm feeling like the extreme lows, but I'm searching for those small, rare moments of those jolts of energy where I know that I'm meant to be here. That makes sense?
Yeah, dude. And something that kept kind of repeating in my mind um, as I was listening to you there was something really interesting, and I forget where I heard it. And it might have been like back in the day when I was going to the gym heavy and stuff. There, I used to just listen to straight motivational mixes, like like straight hour of just like the guys like, if if you don't go after what you go after, then that like not the heavy like CT Fletchers, but like the guys who are kind of like, anyways, it's almost
I know
like poems, I
what you
guess,
mean.
but maybe, but
Prove
anyways,
yourself, believe in yourself.
yeah, stuff like that. But there was this one, it might have been that, but it might have been a YouTube video or TED Talk, though I'm not too sure. It was a couple years back, but it was talking about what really made me think about it was when you're talking about pulling, and you said the words pull and push a lot, which is really what made me think about it, because um, and something I kind of talked about with Joel on my last podcast was the idea. We didn't express this, but it made me think of it again. But I'll get right to the point rather than just beating around it. It's the idea of pull and push, and that we always feel like when there's something like the gym, and you're trying to get into the gym and start getting healthy that way, or if you want to start a new diet, we're always trying to push towards those things. We're trying to push ourselves to do them. But it's not until, that you're actually getting pulled towards those things that you don't need the motivation. Because if you think about it, like you're saying, like the magnet, right? When you felt like you were pulled towards that, that's what we should be trying to do. And that's how we should think about that goal. Like that, what do we love so much, or what is telling us so much, giving us this big signal like you had that day of just like pulling you, that magnet. And we have to take that pull, because think about the resistance and the amount of work you have to put in when you're pulled towards something rather than when you're pushing an object towards something. So think about the finish line, like the metaphorical finish line in your situation, right? You were thrown with all these obstacles, but let's say that day you got pulled. So all those things, when you're talking about it retrospectively, they weren't as big a deals as you thought, because it was a lot easier to get through because you felt like you were getting pulled. But on the other days, or maybe with other things in your life, you might feel that you're pushing a boulder all the way there, right? And
Yeah,
and they might be simple things, like
getting
with a
up at
diet,
6
it
a.m.
might be
every
as simple
day.
as, like, just eating regularly. That might feel like you're pushing a boulder when really you just went through an entire day of an absolute shitstorm, but you were getting pulled towards something you believed in, and that day felt easier than just eating 3 meals in a day, or not eating fast food for a week, like whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, and realistically, logically, when you say that out loud, it's like, that's simple. That's so, like, like that. But that's what it is, dude. Like, when you have that attraction to something where you're so fascinated and curious that it's pulling, dude, and that's what I feel like this is with me. Like, I love these conversations. That's why I'm here having this with you. That's why I will continue to do this, hopefully, but as long as people want to keep having these conversations with me and don't get bored of it. But
Dylan,
at the end of the day,
our
go ahead,
combos can last for hours.
yeah, and it's usually, most times it's senseless. So I'm glad we can sit down here and
Yeah. People that are stuck around us when we're doing our senseless hours and hours of conversations, I feel sorry for them.
Yeah, like people who had to work with us.
Yeah.
That's probably what happened, eh? They're like, God damn, one of these two has to go, and we've been trying to get rid of Alaysha for months, and we just can't get rid of her.
They'd be like, Dylan
New
and
Year.
Dylan notes.
Yeah. Alaysha
Um,
comes in for her second day of work on New Year's as soon as this hotel opens, hungover, doesn't show up. And, great first impression on Alaysha. But hey, no, you stay, I go. One has to. It makes sense now. It makes sense. We get it. There's no harm now. There's not even, I understand.
So my pull today, so I had a 9.5-hour shift. Really not the best day. I have really angry people kind of like tearing me down all day on the phones. You're dealing with, pretty miserable situations with customer service industry sometimes. So, I had to push through it all day long. The energy levels start draining, but that excitement and that pull was, and I have almost like, I've completely re-energized myself right now here with you and on my way to this conversation, because this conversation was important to me, and me being able to let off everything that I've been thinking and I have my voice and I have someone listening, and you have really valuable questions and ideas that you're bringing forth to me, and like that energized me so much today, and I was so happy to be here. Like, just right now, I'm so happy to be here with you having this conversation.
That's great, dude. And I'm going to spin that right into a question back on you. So, like, why can't we have these with, like, exactly what you're saying? Like, why can't we have this with, like, our friends and our family? Like, why does it take having to have, like, a Zoom call with cameras and, like, a podcast platform to, like, just, like, be like, yeah, a genuine conversation would be cool. Like, why isn't, like, what's your opinion on, like, why don't we see more what's your opinion on, like, the struggle we have with trying to get to this level of conversation? Because, dude, I still, like, I love this conversation, but I personally, like, struggle with getting there, like, with my family, even, or some of my friends, right? I think we all like genuinely thrive for it, but we all also, like, put up walls around it.
Well, I think in maybe our generation or society, or even just, I don't know, in family life as well, there's this like severe lack of connection, and we're almost starved for it. We're craving it so badly. So as you're saying, we want this, and how I was just saying how happy I am to be here with you having this conversation. It is really hard to get to that place with other people. And I think I'm trying to think right now, what's the biggest difference that, like, yeah, I knew we were going to have this hour together or whatever, but I think we like put our walls down and we said uncomfortable stuff could come up. There's no plan to this, no rhyme or reason. Like, it's just a back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It's like there's an open, non-judgmental, special, like, space that we have here right now together. And that's something I think that when we're just talking to everyone, our family, friends, there's maybe I am also nervous or scared that I don't have that with them in that moment. And we're not safe to say what we're really thinking without backlash, or where we don't feel like our inner thoughts and feelings are going to be accepted or reciprocated or even just listened to. So that it's like almost an anxiety and
Yeah. But then what does that lead to, you know?
being yourself.
You know what I mean? Like when you
Well,
think, I think everything you're saying is right. Like I agree with you. I'm not debating you. I just like am picking it further. But it's like that is the problem, man. You know, it's like
I
we're
feel that all the time, to be honest. Like I don't have the best ability to speak my mind most of the time. Like I definitely struggle from feeling scared to say what I'm really thinking, or even just to let the emotions out, especially to my family, like sometimes it makes people uncomfortable and you just want to be
Mhm.
yourself or be heard, at least for me, I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, dude. And I found that's kind of the struggle right now. It's like these conversations here are like really opening my mind, right? Sometimes I get finished one and I'm just like pumped. I call one of my family members, but like it's like I forget they're not in that mode. Like I'm in that like the motor's going, you know? So like I'm thinking about everything. And like even with my mom, like it got to the point the other day, like, Mom, if you're listening to this, like we love each other, absolutely. But it was just like, Mom, I want to have this deep conversation. And she's just like, I'm tired and I just want this like simple conversation to know when you're cool and what you did today. And I just want to tell you what's, you know, and then like I do like I struggle like being like, but at this point, what I guess the point I was trying to get to is that through this and all these conversations I'm having, man, is that um, it is scary to kind of view your point and wonder, you know, especially if you think your family is going to have a different opinion or going to look down on you or kind of maybe judge you, whatever it may be. Um, I think it's important to say it, just like we were saying earlier about speaking your mind, especially if you believe this is just my own opinion, but if you believe that it's something that benefits the entire family, not to force anything, we always try and respect everyone's um, values and how they're living life. Especially one of the things I'm trying to understand with my family right now is how we can respect each other's kind of social distance kind of values. I'm not a part of it. I'm here in Vancouver. My whole family's back home in Ontario. So they're all kind of going through that, but I'm kind of like getting to see it from this outside where everyone has these different sets of what their family's doing. And I can see different family members not even like having conflicting views, but just like struggling because not everyone's on the same page. And it's just like, I don't think everyone should have to be on the same page as long as we respect where everyone's coming from and are open to everyone's viewpoints, hearing each other out, but not tearing each other down. You know, like that's literally just what family is at the end of the day, right? Like if you were to, it's not the dictionary definition, but if you break it down, man.
Sometimes I was thinking about this today, actually, before we even had our conversation. I had like a pretty like emotional moment today where I thought about the people closest to me sometimes can be the ones that can tear me down the most. And it's
Yeah.
because I don't know if it's because you love and care for them so much that their opinion really has an impact on you. So, like you said, respect. Not everyone's going to be in the same situation or have the same circumstances. Some people absolutely need to go to work right now. Some people have really, at risk people living with them, or
Yeah.
some people are hating all these closures, and some people are loving it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no right or wrong way to that. So, like, yeah, there's, I don't know, I think it's like a fear thing. People are tearing each other down because they're so scared of what could go
What
wrong,
could be,
maybe.
but I sorry, I don't want to tie it in like we're talking about like the pandemic in general. I want to talk about it on a broader
Yeah.
spectrum of like
Like,
why do we feel like within like maybe our close circles that like I want to take the point of what you said of how you feel like the people closest to you are sometimes the people that are tearing you down, and then extract the point that I went off of sometimes you kind of have to just like speak that or like you have to respect each other. Not that on the other side of what I'm about to say, you take away that respect. But on my very first experience of like leaving home and traveling was, I just dropped out of college at a social work program. I was working at a movie store and McDonald's in my hometown, and I decided I'm gonna move out to a military town in Alberta, and my family looked at me like I was crazy. They're like, Alberta's so expensive. There's every angle, and at that point I felt like no one believed that I could absolutely do this. Like, and they might not have been saying that, and they might not have even meant that, but within my own mind and maybe my own self-confidence at the time, it could have just been that. But it was like they don't believe that. Even if then they're it's just everyone's giving me the worries, but it's just like, oh, I know you can do it, but like this, you need to maybe consider this. And dude, at the end of the day, I had to like go and do it, and it wasn't even I went out there, lived there for 6 months, came home, I got shingles, so pretty much I got boycotted, but I just kept doing it, man. And eventually, like, here I am in Vancouver. I've been, to Jasper, I've been out to Tofino and lived there. I've been on to the East Coast. I've been to Ottawa multiple times and lived there now. So it's like at this point, because I've just went out and did it, and kind of what I've been talking to my sister a lot lately is just going out and leading by example, right? Like, we can say all these things that would be great for our family, or say, hey, listen to the podcast, or like, I think this is a really great idea, let's have maybe a conversation around it. But until you actually like lead by example, or like live by that diet, or like change that lifestyle and implement it in your own life, and they can see the value in it, or the belief that you have in it, and then gain that respect, sometimes that's what you got to do, I feel.
And sometimes you will never get it. You could
Yeah.
do all that and they still won't agree with you.
Yeah, and you'll eat yourself alive if that's what you're searching for. But it's like, the end of the day, like, part of me was like, I'm gonna prove all y'all wrong. But there's times where I was like, God damn, I can't do this. It's all over the place, ups and downs, like even today.
I also wanted to say, like, another thing I wanted to almost get off my chest today was, like, I definitely catch myself in the negative, tearing my own self down mindset a lot.
Yeah, dude.
And that's
We all
probably
do, though.
like my greatest sickness. It's so bad for me that I can make my own self get so low. Like, I can think the worst things, and all those voices of saying I can't do something or I'm not good at this, they like.
Give me an example, Alaysha. What's the most recent thing? You whatever's in your mind, you're relating that, you're bringing this up because of a situation, and I want you to tell me what the situation is.
I guess I feel like I've wasted so much time searching for what I'm good at and who I am that I feel like a lost cause sometimes. I'm like, will I ever find out like what I'm meant to be doing? And so when I'm staying at those like soul sucking jobs, and starting to feel really low about myself, yesterday I met up with my old boss. We worked together for 5 years. It was an amazing experience. I think I learned the most I've ever learned working there. It was a small family-owned restaurant, and we were like a very close-knit team, and that's where my creativity was allowed to shine. My opinions and my ideas were really valued and taken into consideration, and I feel like we actually built something and made so many beautiful like things for people. I really felt like I had an impact, and I haven't had that in a long time. So I do catch myself kind of negative self-talking and wondering, like, even if I'm good enough, or if
Yo, time out. Are you good enough?
Yeah, well, yeah, I know I should be knowing that I am.
Goddamn right you are. You know that.
And so, like, yesterday, I was so tired again from work, right? All these things drag me down, but there's this small little thing calling me, like, go meet up with your old boss. You guys had a great connection. Maybe it's fallen out. Maybe it's been a few years. Maybe it'll even be awkward. But if you don't go and be awkward, you won't have like a good experience. So I went, and we were working on this film project, this short advertisement for a company, because I took advertising in school. So
Advertisement school, eh?
yeah, I took school to
Just
help
the
me
whole. It's just.
whole 30
I
years
got the
of
advertisement school diploma to go with it.
how to do all that. Words and pictures. But
Most
I
people
must
just
say,
say that, you know, went to college or university for something. You went to a whole school for it.
well, it was college, but yeah. Anyways, so after working on the project, we got over that little, maybe I felt like an initial slump where I might feel awkward, my presence. Oh, I'm not, saying the right thing or whatever. Sometimes I'm intimidated by people. I don't know if that ever happens to you. Like people maybe
Definitely, dude.
being so much smarter than you or so much, more successful than you. And I hate that feeling, but I can't lie and say that I don't get that.
Yeah, dude. But where, like, we even
Let me get
talk
where I'm
about.
going with this. So
Okay, continue.
then we finished the project, and like I had this amazing feeling overcome me. Like the hours had passed so fast. I lost track of time. It was like 5 hours later. Where did the time go? And I realized during that time, I just jumped right back into something that I was good at. Like in the snap of my fingers, I was directing, I was creating shots, I was creative directing, I was talking about the lighting and the picture quality, like the creative side of making this video and all the concepts. And I had so much knowledge and so much experience to bring forth that the two people that I was working for, the business owners, they were constantly looking towards me for questions. And like it was that feeling again that I was important and that what I had to say mattered and that I felt valuable again. And I feel like my biggest weakness in life all the time is I don't feel valuable. And it's like such a chase for me trying to find that. And I felt it yesterday and it just felt so amazing. And I'm constantly looking for that.
How do you define value then? Like, I'm curious as to, like, not that it needs to be any certain way. Like when you say like, you have a hard time like finding your own value, like when we've talked about how this comes from within and the only person we're fighting is ourselves. So like what, when you put like a label on that value, like what is that value to you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely struggle with it. I guess it stems from like what I said earlier. Like sometimes closest people to you can have such an effect on.
No. Sorry, not to cut you off, but I mean, like, what, like, define. You
What do
say
I
like
think
you,
is value?
yeah, like what? Well, you're
Well,
saying that, you know, like you feel like invaluable, but you in turn would need to relate that to what you deem as value, right?
right,
Because if you're
right.
invaluable, you need to. What's the value then,
You're
man?
almost
Because
making
if
me
not,
feel.
you're just saying it for no reason to yourself.
I almost feel stupid now. I'm like, well, I guess my what I define as value is that I'm making an impact, and then I'm like, wait a second, am I always making an impact?
Maybe you are, dude. I think you are.
I know. I'm really hard on myself, so that's one of
We
my
all
biggest.
are though, dude. We
I
all. I
really.
am. I do the same thing. I literally, you know what I mean? Like I was bummed out because I was supposed to put podcasts out on Wednesdays, and like my second episode, I got it out on Friday. Like stress. Like what do we need to stress about? Like no,
You
there's like
failure.
20 people that listen to this. What am I stressing about? You know what I mean? And it's just like when we just are able to take that step back, man. Like we don't get them often. But again, what you're talking about with your bosses in that work, it's like that's the pull, dude. Like that's exactly that pull that we're talking about. And it's not that you need to like learn how to conquer like the push or the pull. It's like you get that decision. We're all getting those doors of opportunity, and we decide whether we have like push something or we just pull. And some things are going to pull us, some things are going to look like a push. Don't do the thing you have to push then. Or if it's something you need to do, like maybe getting healthy, like find a way to turn that to a pull. With it's all perspective to me, at least, right? Like, and I think like you understand it the same way, is that it's just how we perceive it, man. Like when you took the time to take what you do enjoy, you know, impact doesn't have to have a definitive. Impact is deemed to what you have skills and what you have passion for, right? And if you're
putting that out, having the conversation, speaking up for other people, anything we've talked about, like that is the impact, dude. This conversation that you're having with me right now, like that's the impact, right?
And
And it's just like any of the movements we're talking about or any of the current
yeah,
problems, like it's all the same thing. Like,
this brings me to one last story I definitely wanted to get in here on the podcast.
oh, here's the scripted monologue she has ready, guys.
I don't have a monologue, okay? Stop it, you.
It's not a monologue if it's longer than 13 minutes, okay? It's a scene.
It's a scene, exactly.
Okay,
so,
go, sorry.
Crazy story time. I work in this call center, right? I work for a coffee company. I'm taking calls, angry phone calls most of the time. Coffee products, all right. I won't even mention the company. I don't want to say that. Doesn't matter. I am one person in Ottawa in the call center. There's like 50 employees just here alone. There's like 50 in Montreal. There's probably a bunch of more all around Canada. And there's millions and millions of people in Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
I get this one call. It's from a name. I'll just say her name. It was Danielle Mayo. And I was like, huh, that's funny. I had one of my all-time favorite teachers was Madame Mayo in grade 7. And I was like, huh, that's funny. Her name was also Danielle. What a coincidence. I was like, huh, it's weird. It's Danielle Mayo and calling from Ottawa. That's weird. My teacher was from Ottawa. So I unprofessionally said to the customer, hey, that's so funny. My favorite teacher's name was Madame Mayo. And she said, oh, that's weird. What school did you go to? At Greenbank Middle School. She said, well, then your favorite teacher was me. And I was like in a moment of shock because I know I shouldn't kind of say personal information out loud like that, but I was so caught in the moment. Like, this was one of my all-time favorite teachers. She made such a huge impact on me by supporting me, believing in me, telling me how great I was, capable I was, I could do anything, you know? Those words really stayed with me all my life. And I said to her, again, my self-doubt brain said, oh my God, you won't remember me. Like, it's fine. This is crazy, but you won't remember me. She said, well, tell me your name. I said, no, you won't remember me. She said, come on. I said, okay, it's Alaysha Mahmutoglu.
Can you repeat that once for the people in the back?
Alaysha Mahmutoglu. The phone went silent, like a solid silence. And I was sitting there like sweating, waiting to see what she was going to say. And she said, I remember you. She said, you're the artist. And like, you know, my whole brain just exploded with happiness. I was like, how could a little grade 7 girl from, it's been over 10 years, this teacher remembered me so clearly, and she even remembered like me as a person of what I really do, which is my art. And like, what are the chances of the millions of people that one phone call, that one moment came to me that day, Dylan? What are the chances?
Well, the first thing I thought of, I'm going to share my own story similar to that, but the first thing I thought of, dude, was honestly, yo, the way I see that is like those people come, like she's your favorite teacher, you know, super important like person, and whether it be that person specifically or like the person who embodies those characteristics, right? I feel like in a way those, it's not like I'm trying to like find some answer to you, but like just trying to understand how I would perceive that is like, man, like we need that help when we need it most, or like we need those signs, you know? And when it comes from a person like that was like so meaningful from you at that time, then it's just like, that's something you kind of got to look at and be like, I don't know. I try and look at those things, those moments as like signs or symbols. And the story that I'm going to share with you is actually when I was living in Ottawa. And the first time I lived in Ottawa was, I don't know, I don't know the exact time, but all I know is a 2-year gap in between the 2 times I lived in Ottawa. The first time I lived there about 6 months. The next time I lived there a year when I met you. And I was by Algonquin College there in Ottawa. There's a college in one part of the city that's not too close to downtown. And there was this like small little bus loop. And I would take this bus loop sometimes when I was lazy to get to my main bus I needed. And I'd go early in the morning sometimes, or like to get to work. And there was always the same bus driver that I always bump into. And he's just the nicest fella, like Middle Eastern man. And like usually just me and him on the bus, and I'd stand there and we chat. And he just like, he would definitely like bump up my like confidence. He, you know, I'd say like, you're such like a kind gentleman, you know, like you're really insightful for your age, things like that. And like we always just had good conversations. He'd tell me about his family, what he's up to, you know, and like how like his like what's going on with his job. Like and I'd tell him about me and what I was up to that week or what I enjoyed, and he got to learn a little bit about me. And then I left Ottawa, did my own thing, went out, you know, lived in Jasper, lived in Tofino, what have you, come back. And now I'm on the other side of like the city, still like in the southern kind of part of the city, but over here now, downtown's up here. And
Where, Dylan?
yeah,
Can you show me?
just all these directions, up, down,
Okay,
sideways,
sounds
left,
good.
right, and then a little bit of loop-de-loops. But anyways, then I'm this one day, like, so this is 2 years later, and I'm riding the bus home from the job that we work at, and it was a completely different bus route. And I'm looking at the bus driver, and I was like, that guy looks super familiar. And I'm thinking, I was like, is that like, there's like this random guy I used to talk to on this little bus route? Like, there's no way that that's that guy though. And I was like, should I, the whole bus ride home, I'm thinking like, should I just ask that guy? Like, if he used to, like, I still knew what the numbered bus route was because I knew where it was because my aunt and uncle lived in that vicinity now. And I was gonna just like go up and ask him. I was like, nah, like there's no way, you know. And even if it was the guy, there's no way he'd just remember a guy that he's a bus driver. He drives people every single day. Like I talked to him like between 5 and 10 times, you know, like on the bus.
Way that I felt like they wouldn't remember you.
Yeah, exactly. So the next time I'm on the bus, I was just like, if I ever see him again, you know, that would be my sign. Like I've got to like ask him, you know. And maybe like a couple weeks, a month goes by, and I freaking see this guy again coming home from work, and he's driving the bus, and I was like, I feel like I gotta ask him. So this time, I still like, there's that fear, right? There's that feeling of just like I don't know if I should, or I don't know what to say, I don't know how to say it. And so I'm going to the front of the bus, getting ready at my stop, and he goes, "You look really familiar." And I was like, "Yeah, did you used to drive like on the Centerpoint Trail?" And he's like, "Yeah, I did." He's like, we used to stand there and talk. I remember you now. You used to have long hair." And I was like, or no, he's like, I had shorter hair at the time, I think. And now at that time I had long hair. He's like, yeah, you're a blonde guy, like really like smiley and bubbly. And I was like, yeah, man, like I remember you. I just did not think you would ever remember me. He's like, yeah, man, I remember you. And we just chatted, and the coolest thing was that he said, yeah, this is actually, it's funny because this is my second last day on this route. And then I'm actually switching back to another route or whatever. So he was only on this route for like that couple weeks that I'd seen him those 2 times, filling in for some other shift. So he never even should have been in that area busing anyways. But he just so happened for that time period was there doing the bus that ran right by my house to work, dude. And it was the same scenario when I used to, just like, it was something that blew my mind where I was just like, there's something about this dude where he like reminded me about these little conversations. And I think the symbol, dude, was when I came to Ottawa, when I first got there for the second time, was after my hitchhike across the country. So I just came from out west, and I hitchhiked with this stranger I met, and we got back to Ottawa. And after having so many of these conversations, people picking you up on the side of the road, like such nice, outgoing people, you know, who are just like more than willing to help. And you get to Ottawa, man, and like people are like heads down, won't even look at you. Out in the West Coast here, and this is where I am now, you can walk down the street, anyone will say hi to you if you say hi to them, and most people say hi to you first, you know. But in Ottawa, you get there, it's their own business. And started to think, well, it's a really political town, you know. And but I think that was my little symbol that like, hey man, get out of that mindset of oh, Ottawa's just the political town that everyone's a head down city. It's your attitude and it's your perspective, because there is people like that here. And I think in that moment, man, there was like that kind of shift where I was like, yeah, like there's great people here to talk to, you know. And don't get me wrong, I love having the abundance out here, and it's a lot easier to come across like-minded people. That's why I enjoy it. Not even that we're not like-minded and things like that. It's just like the artistic and creative atmosphere out here, as well as mountains, ocean, island, everywhere. So
I can make my Ottawa boundless ocean with my mind, Dylan.
We're gonna take a pause for that one. Anything else? Anything else you could do there? You want to let us know?
I think we got such a good chat we had here. I think we should wrap it up.
Yeah, we're getting pretty close, dude, to an hour right now.
Yeah, I haven't drank water in like 2 hours, so this
yeah. And Alaysha's also now ran out of scripted content for us, so now she's not the greatest at improv. So
Dylan, you know what? After this podcast, we need to start a new talk show where we just jab, and we could just be our jabby selves, and it would just be endless hours of fun.
Me and you would be the only two people who listen to that.
Did you catch last week's episode? Oh yeah, that was so good.
Yeah, I'll make you a deal. If you push out this episode and we get it to 100 views, I'll do a talk show with you.
100 views.
100 views, and that's between like it's on 6 podcast platforms and YouTube. So between YouTube and listening,
I want everyone to hear my side. You know, be like, hey guys, win this. Watch it.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky. It's not that 100 people have to get through the whole thing. It's 100 views. So luckily, we might be able to hit that.
Man, my back hurts in the end. Come on, people.
Right. So
it's not easy to like have such a long attention span. You got to really put yourself into it. Even me, like sitting here for this long talking, you know, I'm restless. I'm like, ooh, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, but, dude.
For people that
I'm sitting in my closet.
Yeah, you're stuck in the closet right now. For people that are going to listen to the whole thing through, I do hope they're able to like relate or get something out of it, because I know I for sure do when I listen to your other chats with others. And yeah, no, thank you. You asked some really good questions, and I gave my honest self out to the world. So that was cool.
Yeah, dude. I will ask you here if you have any questions for me. But one thing I kind of want to take out of what you said is that it's important. You know, like the reason I have Alaysha on here right now. You know, like Alaysha. Not that any of my guests have been like super important people, but it's just like these are all just conversations. You know, and Alaysha is a person within my own life that we have no problem calling out each other's bullshit. Maybe I do that a little more than she might for me. But she's working on it. But we use those voices, right? And like she said in the beginning, that it's important to have those friends like that, and you need the people in your circle that feel like you're building them up and they're building you up in return. And if we don't have those people, maybe we need to take a little look at that circle. And if that's what happens to be the people that we can't really happen to boot out of that circle because of blood, or you know, because that's the person we might love the most, then we figure out how to, you know, respect their values, but make something work together. So, you know, that's why Alaysha is here today. That's why we've had this conversation. As you can see, we've basically just razzed on each other half the time, but that's why we love each other, you know? Exactly. Yeah, so do you have any questions? Anything you feel like you didn't get to say? Any of your scenes or monologues you didn't get?
All my scripted scripts are out there, don't worry.
All right, so on that note then, we will say goodbye to you for today, Alaysha, but I'm sure there will be another time where if this gets 100 views that we have to sit down and talk even more.
Once it gets famous and viral, you know, it's gonna be
the talk show.
Yeah. Dylan and Alaysha show. Ding, ding, ding.
If anyone can take that and make it into an intro jingle, $10 coming out of Alaysha's pocket for you.
Make it 5, you've got a deal.
Yeah. 5 in an IOU. Okay, Alaysha. Well, I'll let you go and get a drink of water and move your feet because you, like you said, I can tell that your mind's already wandering off other places. So. Okay, dude. Well, enjoy the rest of your night. Thanks for taking the time. I know we were gonna do this tomorrow, but
thanks for getting serious with me for a whole 10 minutes because that's about as long as you and I can stay in the deep for.
Yeah. But don't worry, guys. We will take the 10-minute serious chunk and make a YouTube video out of it so that you can cut through the fun. Why do that when you could listen to it?
No fun for you guys.
All right, dude. Take it easy. Have a good night. And we'll chat soon. Love you too, dude. Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.